Hi, y'all. Well, I just have a few tricks I want to tell you about, specifically regarding a parent-child relationship. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Trina Titus Lozano, and I'm a counselor and ordained Christian minister. And I've got 4 grown kids, 3 are married, and now 9 grandkids, 1 on the way. So it's kind of interesting because with my grandchildren, I have a whole different way of training them because I don't spank them. And I used to spank my children very, very rarely. And I would discipline them, with a wooden spoon. And it would just be one swat, just to remind them that I was the boss and I was the mom. And hi, Amanda. And it was rare, though, that would happen. But as the grandparent, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I know some grandparents do. But and if there was an extreme situation, I'm sure that my kids wouldn't mind me, taking the opportunity to, just remind the kids who's boss and to really discipline them as needed. But I don't want to spank them. I don't want that to be my place. And so as a grandparent, I have learned different tricks to discipline the kids. So I'm going to talk tomorrow about discipline, but I want to just tell you guys a few scenarios, okay, that as a grandparent I do. And this would work for you as a parent too. So if you're a parent that has relied on spanking, these are some tricks that might help you really have the authority without spanking. So, but the key is you have to be the authority. So you've got to establish early on in your own mind, I'm the authority, I'm the parent. So think about the parent-child relationship. You're the parent, they're the child, or you're the grandparent. And sometimes grandparents end up, really caretaking with, quite often. I'll babysit my grandchildren, once or twice a week sometimes. So I've got 2 of the grandkids tomorrow. But when I have the grandkids, I'm their authority, and it's important that they respond to me as their authority. And yeah, I spoil them and I do all kinds of fun things with them, but they need to know that I'm boss. They're not the boss. I'm the authority. They're not the authority. And it's important to me that we all have a great time, but it's even more important to me that they are obedient. Their holiness is more important than their happiness. Let's just put it that way. I want them to be obedient because I want them to grow up and be children that are obedient, not just happy, or not. I don't want to just satisfy their every desire and just try to keep them happy all the time. Hi, Mom. You're joining all the way from Brazil. That's awesome. That's cool. So a few different scenarios that I encounter quite a bit. Now, I love the whole first time obedience thing, and I'm all about that. So Dr. Lehman, I love his method, and I totally did with my children, and I do it with my grandkids. I absolutely do this. Oh, you got home today. Oh, hi. Welcome home, Mom. So I absolutely do this with the grandkids. I tell them once, and then that's all. I tell them once, and I'll turn my back and walk away, but I'm not changing my mind, and I never enter into the power struggle with them, and I certainly don't argue with them. So, for instance, a little scenario happened last weekend. You like this series? Okay, good. A little scenario happened last weekend with my 8-year-old granddaughter and my 6-year-old granddaughter. And we're sitting in the living room, and it was just the 3 of us talking, and they had gone to see a movie. Okay, so here's the scenario. Me and the 2 granddaughters, they had gone to see a movie. The 6-year-old started telling me about the movie. And then the 8-year-old interrupted. She's got a more outgoing personality. She's the oldest of the family, so she's that leader. She interrupted, and she wanted to quick tell me the whole story of the whole movie. And I stopped her, and I said, wait, no. Sophia, Isabella is telling me about the movie. You can't interrupt and start telling me about the movie. She started telling me about the movie. You need to let her finish. And she started crying, no, because if she finishes, I won't get a chance to tell you about the movie. And I said, yes, you can have a chance. I'm not going anywhere, and I want to hear your favorite parts of the movie, but you'll already know what happened. Okay, so now here's the power struggle. So you see how she's arguing with me? I've stopped her from interrupting. She knows what interrupting is. And she was specifically wanting to take over in that moment. She was interrupting Isabella. She wanted to take over. She wanted the attention. She wanted to tell me the story of what happened in the movie. And I just said, Sophia, I understand how you feel. I love to talk and I love to tell people stories. And here's the thing. And I told her about how in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they all tell the same story from different perspectives. So just because Isabella is going to tell me what happened in the movie, and I told her, by the way, I've already read about the movie, so I know what's going to happen. But I want to hear her tell it from her perspective, her side of the story. And then I said to Sophia, and then I want to hear your perspective from your side of the story. So I want to hear different things because each of you have a different idea of what you see and you both notice different things. Well, so we had this conversation and she settled down for a minute and then Isabella, she waited until I got done with that. And then she started to tell me again what happened. So then this happened and that happened. And Sophia, what? No, I didn't want her to tell that part. I was going to tell that part. And then I said, Sophia, Isabella and I are going to go to the other room now. And I took Isabella and we walked out. And we went all the way into the other room. In my house, I have this little apartment, which is quite removed from the living room where we were. I went all the way in there and I gave her my full attention. So we walked away. See, I'm not going to enter into that power struggle. I had already given her my attention and explained to her what was going on. And I had mirrored and given her empathy, but I'm not going to enter into the power struggle. I had told her very clearly, you're not going to interrupt. That's not right. That's not right to do that because she was wanting to take away the privilege of Isabella telling the story. And Isabella started the story. It was her story to tell. So I'm not going into the power struggle. So we walked away. So Isabella and I, we walked into the other room. And I mean, I didn't say goodbye. I didn't explain. I said, all right, Isabella, you're going to tell me this. Sophia won't stop interrupting. You're going to finish the story and we're going in here. So we walked away from her. Okay, so at that moment, see, she learned she's not the boss, and I'm not going to enter into the power struggle with her, okay? We walked away. And then we're there for a little bit, and Isabella's telling me the story, and you know what kids will do? They're eventually going to follow you. You know, they'll follow you, and that's fine. That's what I want her to do. So sure enough, here comes Sophia, like a little puppy dog, you know, with her tail between her legs. She followed me in there. And then she sat there quiet as a little mouse until Isabella finished the whole story. Isabella finished the whole story, and I said, thank you so much for telling me that story. You did a great job telling me about that movie. I said, okay, girls, come on now. Let's go back in the other living room. So then we went back in the living room, and I said, Sophia, tell me about the movie. And she said, you already know about it. And I said, it's your turn to tell me about it, and you have my full attention. Pretend I don't know anything about it because I want to hear your perspective. I want to hear every detail of your perspective. And I bet there's things that you can remember that Isabella didn't even mention. And, you know, she went ahead. It took her a minute to get started, you know, because it wasn't her way. But you know what? I said, go ahead. Now it's your turn. You know, I wasn't going to engage in, you know, again, in her sulking. And I didn't have to change her attitude. I just acted as though her attitude was changed. Go ahead. I'm excited. So I changed my attitude and then she mirrored me, you know, and then I said, Isabella, be sure to don't interrupt when Sophia, and Isabella wasn't going to interrupt anyway. I just wanted her to know, you know, it was going to be Sophia was going to have the same consideration. I said, Isabella, let's listen to Sophia's story. So it does. It works really well. So let's listen to her story and let's give her the full attention. And neither you nor I will interrupt. We'll listen carefully so that we can honor her and give her consideration. It's her turn now to tell a story. So then Sophia told all the details about the movie that she saw. And you know, it was really interesting. They do love to comply in the end. It's great. But here's the thing. I'm not afraid of being the authority. Okay, let me give you another scenario. Okay, so anytime that the 1.5 or 2-year-old grandkids come over, I have high chairs. I've got 2 high chairs that are always set up in my kitchen. And y'all know a 1.5-year-old or a 2-year-old, they don't like to sit in a high chair. In fact, kids will start arching their back, and not wanting to sit in a high chair by the time they're pretty young. They'll be probably 6, 7, 8 months old where you'd go to put them in the high chair and they're like, they don't want to sit in it. Okay, that is the time, and I hope I'm catching y'all early, that you establish your authority, because there's things that you're going to want to establish authority, which is they sit in their high chair when you say they sit in their high chair. They sit in their stroller when you say they sit in their stroller. I see a lot of times parents, carrying the kid, they sit in the cart, the grocery cart, or the cart at Target, the shopping cart, when you say they sit in a shopping cart. And I see a lot of times, they have to sit in their car seat because it's the law, right, Brittany? So parents, since they don't have a choice, it's the law, they'll make them sit in the car seat even if the kids don't want to sit in the car seat. We'll exercise the same authority where it is not optional. It is not optional. I know the law is not involved with the stroller and the high chair and the cart, but pretend if you need that. Pretend that it's the law, right? Okay. Listen, if you start that, carrying them and pushing the cart, your back is going to be killing you. Your kid will, just like they do in the car seat, they might arch their back, but you know what? They will settle into it, and they're not going to scream the whole way. Well, sometimes they do, but then maybe the next time they won't. They'll eventually settle into it, and they'll relax into it, knowing that it's not optional. They have to sit there. Sitting in the high chair is not optional. Sitting in the stroller or in the cart is not optional. Now, there might be times that you choose to hold them on your lap, but it's not going to be because they've arched their back. Maybe that's right. You're always establishing patterns, Mom, and that's the point. So these are patterns that you want to establish, because this is the worst thing you can do, is to let them decide to not put them and say, let's go pick out a snack, and they eat the whole way through the grocery store. Yeah, well, Brittany, there's times when I've taken your kids and I didn't say that, and they didn't want to sit in the car. So here's how I handle that. Okay, so with Faith, even in the high chair, how she'll do. She'll decide she wants to sit in a regular seat and not want to sit in a high chair. So I'll lift her up to put in the high chair, and if she's, then you know what I do? Here's what I did last time. I was like, Faith, give me a big hug. She would give me a big hug. And I would say, give me a really big hug. Squeeze tight. Okay, I'm going to count to 3, and then we're going in the high chair. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And then I would lift her into the high chair. But I would go ahead and give her that extra squeeze, So I sort of gave her that positive attention when she was starting to give me a negative reaction, and then just that little bit of a positive attention, and then reiterating the fact, 1, 2, 3, here we go, then she would do it. Another time, I would do this. Okay, this happened with Eliana before. I'm getting her into the high chair, and she's arching her back and screaming. And I say, I got her right back out, and I set her on the floor. I got her out, and she's standing there. She's not getting anything to eat. And I ignore her. I walk away. Not ignore her, but walk away. So I say, Eliana, let's sit in your high chair. I go to sit her in. She doesn't sit in. So I pull her right back out, stand her on the floor. She's just standing there like, what just happened? And I walk away. I go start, preparing the food. I pour the drink glasses. I just get busy. But I will not enter into the power struggle. No way. I will not enter into the power struggle. So now I've got her food on her plate, and now I've set it on her tray. Now it's second try. So second try. Come on, Ellie. Here we go. Up and over. Okay. And no, she's arching and screaming again. I bring her right back down and set her right back down, and then walk away. Okay. I'm finishing the food. I get the other kids settled. Everybody's settled. And then I bend down and I tell her, Eliana, we're sitting in the high chair now. Ready? Nina's going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Whoop. There we go. Okay. And so sometimes it takes me a couple tries with her. She's really strong-willed. But you know what? She'll comply, but I will not enter into the power struggle. No way. I'm not going to do it. So sometimes with me, it'll take me, I'll say it, and then I'll have to turn my back and walk away if they're not going to be that instant compliant. Did she do that at Chick-fil-A? Yeah. But then did Brandon get her to stay in? So I'll decide in advance. But in my own kitchen, I was just like, I just walked away, and she stood there like, hey, where'd you go? I just walked to the other side of the kitchen as if it never happened. as if it never happened. Sort of to give her the idea of, hey, warm up to the idea, this is what's going to be happening. She's going to be she's what, like 18 months old, something like that, like a year and a half. Yeah. So she's getting to be a little thinker. So, I'm telling them what to do rather what not to do. Exactly. And you know what? But establishing the patterns of I determine. But it's so important to keep that authority, but I'm never authoritative, but I'm not permissive, but I'm not authoritative. But I have the authority, I determine, because I know what's in your best interest, and I never step out of the authority, of the role of the authority. So that's always your role. And don't be afraid of your kids being mad. Don't be afraid of your kids throwing tantrums. You can deal with it, and it's okay. They will be upset. Jeannie, you like this? You're learning how to be a grandma, right? Jeannie, you like this? Okay, so tomorrow I'll have a couple grandkids over, and yes, they'll probably not want to sit in the high chair because Liam's about the same age, about 19 months old. Okay, so you know what though? Trust me, he will sit in the high chair and he will eat because I'm not going to hold him on my lap. And it's the worst thing you can do is when you're sitting a kid in the high chair and they go, for you to go, okay, then I'll just hold you. No way. Then they just won the battle. And literally for years, they will be rebellious. And for years, they will always think that they're the authority. So then they become like the child CEO. They become the boss of everything and everyone. Yes, I think that's a great idea, Brittany. Sometimes having the food on the trays ready or a couple of crackers or something, because sometimes you need to contain them in the high chair so that you can have both hands to prepare the food and they're being supervised or whatever. They can't get in any trouble, while they're there. So that's sometimes why I want to put them in the high chair a little bit in advance with just a cracker or something, or a little appetizer, basically, so that they can get started eating while I'm finishing preparing. But I do try to prepare in advance. But it's ideal if we can prepare it all in advance and we all sit down together. That's really the most ideal. If they're going to be playing quietly, around your feet while you're preparing, that would be perfect. That would be ideal. But sometimes you need them to get in the high chair just so that they're contained. But you determine. Same thing with the stroller. The other day at the mall, James and I were at the mall, and the kids were wanting toys. Well, I had already taken them shopping earlier in the day, so they'd already got a new toy that same day. So then that night we had gone to the mall. My husband wanted to look for shoes, and then we were going to ride the carousel. When we get to the carousel, y'all, the carousel was not there. We get to Grapevine Mills Mall, and Anderson and I look at each other like, what happened? How is the carousel not there? The carousel has been there for years, like literally years, probably 15 years. It's not there. There's this fence around and it's being repaired. It's under construction. We're just like, what? We brought our tickets. How's the carousel not here? So he and I had our little moment of, this is so disappointing. So I was like, well, did that happen one time? Yes, that is so weird when, you're expecting something, but it's not a time to have a meltdown. It's not a time to have a tantrum. It's a time for plan B. So kids need to know about the plan B. So we're like, okay, let's go look, help me hunt for the other rides. So we went around the mall till we hunted for the big trampoline thing, which was a lot of fun. But every toy store that we passed, Anderson was asking for toys, and I would say, nope, we already got one. It's at home. We'll play with it when we get back, and then walk away. So you're not entering into a conversation. And then if he kept asking, it didn't matter because I already said no, and we already walked away. So I just let him ask and let him talk, and he just sort of talked it out, but I wasn't engaging in the conversation. I wasn't ignoring him, but I wasn't engaging the conversation because he already knew I had already said no. It was a done deal. There was no tantrums. It was great. Okay, so same thing with Faith on that day. She didn't want to sit in the stroller. Well, had we first walked into the mall and we had the stroller, if as soon as she was like, I don't want to sit in the stroller, or Anderson goes, I want to walk. They both tried that. Faith's like, she didn't want to sit in the stroller. Anderson's, I just want to walk. Immediately I said, give Nina a big hug. Give me a big hug. Okay. And then I held him really tight. It's like, oh, big hug, squeeze. Okay. I'll count to 3 and then we'll sit in the stroller. 1, 2, 3. Whoop. There you go. Here, hold your blanket now. And then I would be rolling down the mall before they could even know what happened. They're like, what, how did this happen? I just got in the stroller somehow, you know. There's no conflict. But I established my authority. I kept my authority. Think of discipline sometimes as discipleship, you know, like where you're literally telling them where to go and they're doing what they're told, you know, but you determine, you know, you can't spank them in the mall. That's just not a thing. But if you've established the authority, it's not necessary anyway, but you don't ever lose your authority. You don't lose your authority. Yes, it is all about, good. It's all about that first time. It's the first time. Good, good, good. Authority is essential in life, y'all. For many years, I worked at a juvenile detention center here in Fort Worth. And you've got 12 to 17-year-olds in this juvenile detention center that never respected authority. And since they didn't, they end up in kid jail. I mean, you can't do life that way. So it's really important to tell kids about authority. Brandon, I love this. Brandon actually teaches Levi the word authority. And I love that he will actually say that. Daddy's leaving right now. Right now, Nina is your authority. And he'll say, your teacher is your authority, you know, and he actually says, who's the authority? And I think that's great. And he says, Levi, this is your authority. And he's 5 years old. Exactly. So that's a great word for them to use. And you need to submit to your authority. So Brandon's teaching Levi, you know, using the real actual words of what needs to be happening, which I think is great. Instead of using the word boss, you know, this is your boss. This is your authority. You need to submit to your authority. So you need to obey them. Whatever they say, then you obey them, you know. And I will have the kids, when I tell them a direct instruction, like, you know, sit down, don't stand up in the stroller, sit down, you know, or whatever the instruction is, say, okay, Nina. And if they start to argue with me, immediately I'll say, you say, okay, Nina. And they'll say it. They'll say, okay, Nina. Anderson and Faith both did that. And you know what? It took some prompting with me, because you've got a 2 and a 4-year-old. So yeah. It does. It's great for them to use the word obey, you know, and they are proud of themselves. We always say, hooray, you obeyed, you know. I always make a big deal out about it when they obey, so that's always fun too. Anyway, those are just some ideas. We will talk some more tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll be practicing with a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. So I'll be getting more ideas tomorrow, you know, just hands-on. It's good because I'm a grandparent. But it reminds me of the tips that I can give you as a parent, but also as a grandparent. You know, it's just, we are placed in our children's lives for a purpose. And it's great when they have generations of people to influence them. And as parents, y'all, it's great to just really have that support of grandparents. And I want to be a great support to my kids, but I want to come alongside of them to really train my grandkids how to obey, right? So it's good. Yes, well, thanks. I'm glad that you like this. I know, I've got examples with all 9 grandkids, soon to be 10, and they're all different personalities. Oh my goodness. And they all have different issues and different strengths and different weaknesses and different personalities. So it's so fun. So those 9 plus my 4, I've had a lot of experience with kids, and I taught tap, ballet, and jazz with 3-year-olds for a total of about 18 years, y'all. So I taught little kids for a long time, you know, and as a teacher, that's what you do. Once you establish your authority, you can get those kids to do anything, you know, and it was just great. You've got your routines and you've got your systems. And so you have to do that in ways where you establish your authority, but it's not authoritative in the sense that you can't spank your 3-year-olds in the classroom, you know, so you have to use methods besides just spanking. And you're not my worst student, Brittany. It was cute. It was cute. You were good. But that's true. Sometimes if you're the teacher, your own child will want to think that they're the exception to the rule. But actually, you were pretty good, Britt. But anyway, thank y'all for periscoping tonight. And thank you, Brittany, for being on. That's so cool. I do get my videos on my website eventually, which are actually on the YouTube already. So you go to my YouTube channel, Trina Titus Lozano, and you can find parenting videos there. Okay, y'all? So God bless you. And yeah, if you'd like to see some other replays, go to my website, TrinaTitusLozano.com. Yeah. So God bless you guys. I'll be back tomorrow at noon and 9. I'm probably going to do some Facebook Live tomorrow. We'll see how it goes with the kids. Okay. God bless you guys. Good night.